Holy crap, it's an Andrew and Michelle stream. That never happens.
I know, right?
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Michelle has ventured out behind the art desk. So everyone be nice, and maybe she'll continue to come out. Speaking of coming out, Tyler anyway.
Yeah,
all right.
A lot of buffering complaints.
Buffer party.
Don't know what's going on with the internet, folks.
It's clearly my fault.
Buffer,
Art's not allowed on stream.
Okay. I can't do anything from this side of the camera, so
We'll just do our best.
okay. So 2 announcements that people have in the past complained about lead time on 2 things. The first thing is that a lot of people have been saying, "Hey, I want to bring my guild into your next playtest," but you're always like, "Oh, playtest tomorrow." Announce on Friday that there will be a playtest on Saturday. So I'm going to announce right now there is not a playtest for this weekend. However, there is a playtest for next weekend. That would be Saturday, August 16th. That will be noon to 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Should make it 9 a.m. to noon U.S. Pacific Time, and sometime in late afternoon for everyone in Europe. So we would like to get a bigger turnout for that than we've gotten for a lot of our 24-hour notice playtests. So if you want to grab a guild or anything like that and bring in a whole bunch of people to see how we're doing, you have 8 days notice on the next playtest. So we're committing to that. We're setting it in stone, drawing the line in the sand, freezing a really good build and saying, hey, stop by. And there's nothing in particular, but do some murder.
Bring all the friends.
And another thing that people have in the past said, hey, you didn't give us enough lead time about this. So I will definitely be at Dragon Con this year, and there will 90% certain, because Dragon Con, nothing is ever completely certain until it happens, be a CSE panel of some sort. It might just be me. Hopefully MJ will be there. So, those of you who like to go to cons, a bunch of people have said in the past, gosh, I wish I'd known you were going to be there long enough in advance to come. So, yeah.
Oh, Dragon Con's amazing.
Yeah. It is my personal favorite con. So it's basically just, I don't like the, kind of top-down, you are going to get marketed to by Marvel and EA kind of thing. Like, there's a few that are just, like, very bottom-up, like, clearly organized buy-in for fans, like Dragon Con and MagFest, and that's my jam.
Absolutely. Like, compared to, like, Comic-Con stuff, it's much more, like, we call it relaxed, It's the best adult nerd con I've ever been to.
And they're, usually those cons, like, degenerate into complete chaos because, like, the people who are running panels went to too many parties the night before or something, but...
Well, appreciate you going. I got too much to do here.
So, that's, playtest next weekend at noon Eastern, and Dragon Con in a few weeks on Labor Day weekend. I have no idea what panels will definitely be there, but I'll be there. Look for my stupid hat.
They are majestic.
Yep. So, straight into the top 10 then.
10 it up.
10 it up. Apparently there are 14
Well,
this
it
week.
starts with tech. I think that's more your venue than my venue's on the page 2 with all the art things.
Oh yeah, so one other thing, Michelle, because she's like, oh gosh, I don't like to be on the stream because it's all about saying words. We brought Michelle a tool that she can use to answer visually if needed. So, feel free to answer in the form of a very quickly made drawing.
If it's easier to answer a question in a drawing, I will do that. Just try and not give me too hard of questions. Art questions much more than anything else.
Yeah, and at the end, if you have questions about visual style or the look or the reasons stuff is designed the way it is visually, we don't necessarily bring artists out for questions often, so have those ready. Anyway, top 10. Definitely the number one thing on this week is the nav mesh and pathing for NPCs and guards and random wolves that you'll harvest, and all of that is finally coming together. MJ did a stream with some early previews of a guy chasing him around corners and not getting stuck in walls and all of that, and it looked really good. We've gone a long way with guards and stuff that
It's fixed.
Okay.
Oh, we're fixed
for now.
Yeah. So we've gone a long way with guards whose entire AI was run that way really fast. If anything gets in your way. That is finally changing, and so I'm really looking forward to turning on, say, some of the point capture scenarios with swarms of NPCs who are actually smart. So that's go back to the previous stream that MJ did. It's like the one right before this in the queue, just demoing some of the work. Lee has been the main guy on that, and the Mighty Mike D has been kind of the sort of putting a little polish over the top. So I'm getting a little bit about why this has why this came on late. So our world is completely dynamic. So we are built, it is, number one, islands are huge, kilometers in size, and number two, anyone can just be like, you know what, I'm gonna put a plot here, and I'm gonna build a building there, and I'm gonna knock down his tower, and there's just, all of a sudden, unexpectedly, here's a, giant chunk of tower lying across a valley, and all that adds up to is, we're doing pathfinding at very large scale in a completely dynamic environment, and that's the thing that's, we've pushed hard to get here, but I don't think anyone else is really doing that level of dynamicness. So awesome job to Lee for all the work he has done to make that happen as fast and efficiently, and most importantly dynamically.
Mm-hmm.
Tech number 2, gameplay stuff. Matt and Christina have been adding support for items that react when a player collides with them. This lays the foundation for traps, and it's also kind of generically scriptable because the reaction can be almost any trigger we want. So that is in there. I'm not sure when it will be usable as an ability. The class implementation schedule is its own tree, but that is now there, and it's cool, and fun stuff will happen.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of really nerdy back-end stuff.
I'm going to look like I know what you're talking about.
How about
not in my head.
While I do this, how about a wonderful picture of items that react in unpredictable ways when players touch them?
Yeah.
You decide the reaction.
Decide the reaction.
What the item is and what the reaction is. Michelle's evil concept art. Okay. So, tech number 3. And this is this is all going to be rolled up into kind of 3 things. we are making this big push to get all of our server code portable and working on Linux for various hosting reasons. And so I have been making a lot, I've kind of like run in the vanguard of just rebuilding all of our projects from Visual Studio to something called CMake, which is a, sort of a meta project management system that reduces projects for Linux and for Windows and for other things too. And, and just making everything build out of CMake on Windows, which, and in the course of that, just cleaning up a lot of crap. So, I've got all of that done and rebuilt through the proxy system, and which is kind of like our biggest backend scaling option or scaling problem, because that's turn on more proxies as more users log into the game. So getting that on Linux is probably our our biggest win to start scaling out. And this says I've started working on the physics side. I actually wrapped up all the physics stuff just before this, so go me. So basically the win there is number one, it helps us cut server costs, and number two, it does open up some possible portability type things. I'm not going to say what or where because I honestly don't know what or where. There are all kinds of options, like running clients on on servers for Stadia or Xbox streaming, or who knows, maybe see you on the Switch. But this is all foundation for that. Those are all hypotheticals for the future, but the thing that it gets us right now is like, a 60% reduction in our server costs as we scale. And oh god, we are getting ready to scale. Item number 4, also related to this, Colin has, while I've been churning through the native code, all the C++ stuff, Colin's been taking the C# stuff and migrating all of our stuff from old school Microsoft.framework to new school .NET Core 3.0, which is also hostable on Linux, and it also gets us like a whole bunch of fun C# stuff. Like, I'm going to save this for the end if anyone wants to nerd out about code, but explicitly nullable reference types is the thing that the computer science should have had for 40 years. And he's been doing that. And then meanwhile, while I ran ahead with the native code project, Wiley has been taking care of low-level utility library stuff, converting the actual C++, not the meta project stuff, but the actual like individual lines. Any place that someone was using Windows, write the Linux equivalent, and that's gonna go bottom up, but it's gonna stop at the client because the client's gonna continue to be DirectX focused. That is the 5 of us. Michelle, you ready? Or should I go one more?
Let's see. 5. Do you want to read the number 6 tech tools?
If you're drawing, I'll. Yeah. Okay.
I can stop.
No. You finish, and then we'll show it next time, or after this one. So, Bull's been working on a tool that this doesn't do it justice. Load and configure data in spreadsheets. So we have like all these spreadsheets that we use. There's a giant spreadsheet that lists every animation and what its priorities are and what it's, you play this clip for this action. Then there's like spreadsheets for items, there's spreadsheets for, game balance, and there's lots of different ways they kind of make their way into the game. And what Bull has been doing is a system to just directly pull all the spreadsheets directly out of Google Sheets and then put copies of them in our database, which then lets us do things like deploy new game balance spreadsheets to running servers. That lets us easily be like, okay, you know what, this channel, this server, move the animation spreadsheet from this from Hatchery over to that without moving a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's kind of part of the big picture thing of partitioning stuff into live and beta and letting us and development and letting us move individual changes between those that a lot more easily without being like all or nothing, which is what we do now. Okay, Michelle, you ready? You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
You were number 7?
All right.
Where am I starting?
I was gonna say show. Are you
You
ready to show
were
the
like,
picture?
draw the thing. Oh,
Are you
draw
ready-
the picture.
Are you ready to show the picture?
Like, I made the first one.
Okay.
You're like, interaction. You know, you can destroy a wall, something special, and they turn to ducks.
I like ducks.
We haven't done ducks, so I haven't done streams in a while, and always ended up someone wanted a duck somewhere, so I did that. Now I have a
So
sword.
it's castle plus boom equal ducks
And
Yes.
feathers.
and feathers.
This
ducks.
should happen.
For events. It could be fun. And then it could make the quack quack or squeaky squeaky
Yeah.
sounds.
And then
They're
drawing
not
the
dead
sword
ducks,
from the
they're
stone.
quacking.
Yeah, you see the
Power.
sword, and need power, but I didn't get to the fun part because I was trying to think of something. You're having me concept where you're like, oh yeah, now we're reading these. Now just pay attention to you and draw.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You're
I'm sorry.
fine. So if you have an idea what the third part should be here, let me know. If you see
Let's
a
ask the
popular
streamer.
one.
Let's ask the audience.
If you end up seeing a popular one, let me know and I'll draw it during the Q&A.
Unfortunately, the buffering has come back.
Well, maybe we'll see it through the buffering. But remind me, what number are we on here?
So I'll do number 7, and that'll be the last like super engineering one. So number 7, tools, and I should mention that we have been hiring out. I did mention scaling up. We have also been hiring out in terms of various DevOps type positions. So got a new guy who is working on a tool to automate starting up and tearing down shards and servers and everything else, where it just instead of Tim holding the server's hand as it comes up and down, it'll just be fully automated and robust. And that's there's a lot of stuff that getting from a point where all right, someone holds the server's hand for 3 hours during the test to, okay, there's just a whole bunch of shards that all run themselves 24/7, and this is, a bit of that infrastructure.
All right,
All right.
stuff.
Yes,
Finally,
your turn.
Me, things in my category. All right, let's see. VFX improvements and templates. Mike Lore the Sparkles has been continuing to adjust existing VFX based off changes to lighting last week. Additionally, he's working through new ability types by creating templates that can be used later when the visual look of an ability is more defined.
Do you know which abilities he's been working on?
Well, I know he's always very judgmental of whatever ability, so he doesn't talk too much to me other than I try and encourage him to stop being so judgmental over himself.
He's also like, is he ever judgmental about the ability itself? Like, I don't like the game balance of this. It doesn't deserve good sparkles.
All it does is if
No?
he wants it to be more exciting, or we push it a little further, then he'll talk with, animation or whatever.
Okay. And by the way, I don't know if you guys have really noticed the changes to lighting, because there's a lot of stuff that's just kind of like subtle, but I feel like the game as a whole just, there's lots of new color balance and color grading, and colors are a little brighter in certain situations. Like,
It feels a lot better. Like,
the game
I
feels
don't
vibrant.
test as much as I would like to. I kind of go into my own zone when it comes to content. As you can see, if I'm drawing, I kind of just forget everything else exists. So seeing the strides in the lighting has been really impressive. Let's see, number 9, music. DB is focused on creating sample instruments for new low-intensity music. Ooh.
chilling out.
There'll be some vaporwave, I don't know. Medieval vaporwave.
Medieval vaporwave.
Let's see. Material work, procedural materials. Last week we talked about using a new program to create our own in-house materials. This week we focused on making these materials more procedural. This will save a lot of time in the future when we want to tweak things like hue, value, grime, dense, blah, blah, blah. because we don't want to have to go back to the sculpting phase, instead just moving a few sliders around and making new textures. This also, it's not on here, but it applies a lot to giving us flexibility in crafting, so we can, have a lot more if we go bigger and stuff. We can just plug stuff in. Art concept. That's me. This week we went for, we're doing a lot of NPC, a wide range of future possible NPCs. This covered a wide area of creature types. You can check it out in our update images today. At this point, we're also investigating different types of characters we would create. So we're trying to think ahead as we have the time to.
Yeah, and I want to come back to that and say, this also hooks into, smarter NPCs. We've always said, there's not PvE leveling in CU. You can't just go out and, kill rats until you gain a level. But that doesn't mean there is nothing ambient in the world. Like, killing various beasts is an important part of of the crafting, the gathering. That is part of the economy. Likewise, all the things that you can have guarding a keep, or possibly summon, or pets. And then there is everything in the depth that is also both a contested resource and a source of resources. Mm-hmm. So those are all really important, and and this is part of what's going to make it a real world.
Oh yeah, and it's good that we expand this library now, so we have it ready to go, and we're also like, let's just make all the things, and it's your problem.
Yeah, I am so tempted to just go on the Unity store and get the derpiest possible wolf model and just have it running around in the forest there's not even animated.
Some really fun.
Because I just want to see I want to kill a wolf.
We have a lot of fun
I want
creatures.
Wolf pelts.
We've that especially Tina is really good at creatures. She kicks my butt. But there's going to be some really fun ones to look at. Let's see here.
Number 12.
Number 12. I knew that. Viking battering ram. We finished this guy off, fixing its materials and adding rigging to it so it can be used as the other two realm versions. This should show up very soon in a future build. Now the Vikings won't have to use the filthy Arthurian version for testing.
I felt dirty. I felt really dirty.
Oh, that had to feel so wrong. And then number 13, Draugr movement set. Hotsnat Sandra and Scott have been double teaming on this item to get all the walks, runs, idles, and one-handed weapon movement animations done. Next step will be to work on the attack animations. I know they're going to enjoy that a lot more than walking.
They're creepy looking.
They're fun.
Oh, the depths.
Oh, they'll have the character to them. Also, in animation, giant movement concepts. Scott completed 3 rough animations of a giant walking forward. Each of these has a very different feel to them. Next up is to pick the one we like the most and build out the rest of the animations for later use. So we basically pick from the 3 and we build upon it for something more cohesive.
Yeah, how fun was it though? When the first thing we just did was just be set my skill to 5x, and it was Tyler was just walking around with, and all the tech just made the animation work as well as it could for the scale up.
Yeah.
But it was just man.
Well, at 5x, all I can think is,
badass.
I guess we don't have to worry about doors anymore. Just an animation to walk over walls.
Yeah, I felt like a badass on behalf of Tyler. It was just oh man. I
thought it was cute, all the little people. It was the babies of the human. Or the giant, whatever.
But yeah, it definitely needs an animation, a few of the animations. We don't have to override all the animations, but just to give it a more weight on the core, and definitely, a nice stompy fidget.
Yeah, but it is fun seeing how we have to do a little bit of a different animation when you're at that higher scale to feel right with all the other people walking around, the speed at which you move your legs and stuff.
Yeah, because, we want it, for balance reasons, the giants move a lot slower relative to their size than you do. Mm-hmm. So, because if you scaled up someone by, If you scaled up someone by 2x and they're also twice as fast, that's just like not. You can't have those in the same game.
No, and you also got to realize the person playing it, you want them to feel good as the player playing a giant as well, because you don't want to feel like you're a slug. Like, yes, I'm going to get it. Yes. You still have to make a balance there and make it feel good.
So, cool stuff.
We got through the list.
We will open it up for questions. We will stick around until 5, so 30 minutes. As per usual, hopefully the buffering will behave itself. I'm pretty sure the problem is that there may be a database replicating in the background on our connection. Someone may have dropped a whole bunch of new art into the database, and it's replicating its way from here to Seattle or
art
back.
Can do that?
Oh,
I just worked in Photoshop.
You're just like, oh wait,
I just throw the Photoshop in. I'm like, here you go, enjoy, not my problem.
This document has 150 layers. Do you know how big that file is?
You know, you're right, because I've made Photoshop files like that are like well over a gig and stuff for flexibility, so I can be like just change it on the fly.
It's one of you who's made this happen.
It's not on Avalon. I keep them on my C drive.
Yeah.
Well, our first question is from Dark Society Network. Is the animation system still as flexible as shown in the past, with limbs moving independently? And is this system preventing you from using motion capture? Was mocap ever an option, and could we still do a stretch goal for it?
So mocap has, there's definitely no obstacle to using mocap with the animation code. From the animation system's perspective, there's, here's a file. It says how each of the body parts moves, and we play it back. So there's no technical limitation on mocap. Mocap has, the limitation really is just, time and quality. And I will let some of the animators speak to that, because I am not the expert in that. But
I wish I was the expert in that. I would love us to do mocap. I would assume there's a lot in.
It's a lot of work.
I know how to set it up, though. I took animation in college.
It
and
is
stuff,
a ton of work.
It's more so that like how it works with our engine and inputting it, and also you bounce. So when you do mocap, the animators then still have to go back and do like all the little finger things, and then who's also doing all the animations? The mocap animations. Is it all us? Like I got some sweet sword moves, but you sometimes want someone who is a little bit more athletic or skilled in making things look cool tech-wise.
We're not gonna mocap engineers. Well, okay, we might mocap AJ. AJ goes out and does dragon boat racing. He's buff. He's got skills. I think Anthony was talking about rock climbing.
I've done LARP a couple times. I'm sure it's the same.
I made my strength check, therefore I'm strong.
Mumblefish asks, Michelle, what art, in-game or upcoming, are you most happy with so far? Be it concept, VFX, model, etc.
Oh, that's a hard one.
There's so much art.
I know, where does it gather? What am I happiest about so far? The future plans as we're moving towards crafting and armor and weapons for a lot of variety and whatnot, and a lot of choice on the player side. Kind of like that a lot, but that's just me personally and how I play games, and I love to craft and whatnot, so kind of excited for that. Visually, I've been really excited about lighting, honestly. Like looking, I'm like, oh boy, we look so good now. So I'm liking the direction
what
it's
can
going.
I say except
It makes
you're
such
welcome.
it's crazy how it makes a difference, and how it translates the textures and whatnot. And it's looking at it, I have better ideas on future concepts to really make stuff shine.
Yeah, I came out from server and infrastructure and optimization land for a little bit, and wrote my first pixel shader in literally years to kind of rebalance some of the colors. So that was my idea of a vacation. My heart is still in the shaders.
AI Sense asks, I saw someone talking about the features of the islands getting reattached to the mainland when you have possession. or of the landscape changing depending on the realm possessing it. Are those features canceled or are they still planned?
They are still planned. And, the biggest reasons those aren't necessarily on right now are perf. And I have a very high confidence that the perf can be solved, though. But it's never, it's a really bad feeling when, there's an epic battle going on, and just as things flip, everyone's clients hitch from regenerating terrain.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I know exactly what needs to be done. I just need to do it.
Yeah, you just push the semicolon button. It makes it work, right?
Yeah, no, you press it faster. It's
That's my extended programming knowledge. A lot of semicolons and stuff.
it's like, those old, crappy sports games where just, how fast you push the button is how fast your character runs.
Yes. It works great in Mario Party.
Combat Sack asks, how are you planning to manage day one server load through to a settling with a stable player base?
One of the hard lessons learned, for Warhammer, we just basically opened up a new server every time there was a queue on opening day, and that's, obvious. And what we ended up with was, as soon as that opening day rush died, even the second day, it's okay, well, none of these servers have enough players because they got sized for that massive rush.
Oh yeah, here, give me my pen. I'll show you what I always deal with and going in.
So, part of it is just because we have all different tiers of backers, we can, give a little bit of throttling, and we're not going to do it some people get an entire week to go out, but it might be throttled on the order of, hours or whatever. And secondly, we do have a really scalable system. So I think we can support more players than we can physically support more players than we want on an island. So we're going to try and scale for that and just be it's too crowded, but the servers are holding up. Just because of the way we do scale out. And lastly, this is something that Marcus talked about, which is the idea of kind of having sort of starty instances, where you can run around and you can do stuff, and eventually you're let out into the main world. So kind of partitioning starty zones, which hopefully we will stop doing that as soon as population stabilizes. But it's possible we might instance a starter island.
So I assume it's something avoiding this.
Yeah.
Everyone trying to get through the door at once. That's to me the what I've dealt with in the past. Getting onto a server in an MMO everyone's squishing through the door.
Yeah, there's some places where it's
in.
there are so many people trying to come in that none of them can actually get in. When a login server gets taken down, we're experienced. We know what we're doing with that, so we have a good team on that. I'm not too scared of that.
No, I don't think we'll be dealing with that like we have in the past.
So that's kind of the trifecta. So I'm not too worried.
Andrew Cortesia asks, are you planning on upgrading Visual Studio after launch, or do you stick with 2019?
So I think that the path that we are going to be on is just always maintaining the current version from here forward, because Microsoft did this thing where they had just a very small number of massive upgrades, and and there would be a lot of pain to just overcome that hump, whereas right now I think Tim just this afternoon put the version 16.2 on our build box, and assuming Hatchery is a good build from that, then we'll put 16.2 on everyone's machine. And the only reason that happened this week instead of last week was we really, really wanted to lock an absolutely solid build so that we could be hey, next weekend y'all come in, and commit to that and plant the flag well in advance. So we have so I think we're gonna be sticking with the very latest stuff for lagging by like at most a week, just going forward, and as long as we keep it to small incremental things, it's not going to be too scary. I say that, but then Netcore 5 is going to come out, and who knows what's going to happen.
That sounds intense.
Tordug asks, I am building my 3900X AMD machine with a nice Radeon 5700 XT video card of the coming weeks. So, what is the situation with AMD optimizations?
So we admittedly have not been. So my main dev box is a 2950. So it's basically the same thing. Threadripper 2950, which is same core count, is just a non-thread. So we on the CPU side, we are about 50-50 AMD, Intel, and CPUs we optimize really hard for, because at this point, like, if I'm looking, why is this slow? It's my front line on is this fast this fast on Threadripper. So but we're about 50-50. Then in terms of video cards, I know everyone is sort of religious about this, and they think there are a lot of conspiracies behind the scenes or whatever. We do not specifically optimize for AMD or NVIDIA. We really don't. I mean, there's some GameWorks stuff we use, but there's nothing in there that we are using that we're like, oh my, that is specifically targeted at NVIDIA. I promise. So we aren't really trying very hard. I mean, we want to run well on everything. In general, we try and optimize for the lower end rather than the higher end. So, because if you nail the lower end, the high end just generally takes care of itself. But yeah, so all I can say is there's no, we're doing it. It's good stuff. AMD is doing a great job on performance per dollar for sure. Like they're nailing that right now. Best value, hands down.
Ms. PT asks, will there be armor dye?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I got to think about that when I design things. Yes, there will be.
Ms. PT asks, do factions have their own style of cube color sets so keeps are styled to realms?
So we started out with that, and and we didn't like it. So then we just said, you know what, every realm gets almost all of these, because for a finite memory budget of like, okay, we need to draw a cube building, then